all of you, and good morning to all of you. Thank you for attending this webinar. We have many people connecting, so we will start in 2 minutes. Thank you. Hello, good morning. And I don't know for you, but I see it's 2:02, so it's the 2 official minutes delay for a webinar to allow everybody to connect. So I really thank you to joining this webinar. So as you can see, that today we will discuss an important thing, the development of renewable heating and cooling in Croatia. Croatia is a key country today developing renewable energy. So it's why we have decided to focus today on Croatia, because we know that the potential is huge and there's already a lot of development. You could see from the title that today we will discuss heating and cooling. So not as in many of our events and discussion about electricity, we will focus on heating and cooling. And we will look at, of course, the current challenges we have in Croatia, but in many countries in Europe and all over the world. High energy prices, many electricity and gas and oil, because for renewable prices, the difference is not so huge, although you can have some impact. And of course, security of supply. We are, of course, in summer, but industry still need a lot of heating for their industrial process. But in 6 months, we'll be in winter, and the heating and cooling supply will be key. So we will look at today about technologies, innovation, market development of the different renewable heating and cooling technologies, and an illustration of some case studies to see how that can be done in Croatia as the best practices to be replicated afterward all over Europe. The agenda of our discussion is that I will give the floor to Javier Urchoyaga to present you an overview of what are the activities of this platform, this European platform on renewable heating and cooling. And after we will have a series of presentations. First, it's my pleasure. Secondly, it will be my pleasure to give the floor to Sanja Zivkovic from the Energy Institute. And she will give an overview of the energy sector in Croatia. After, we'll have Martina Duschel from the Hydrocarbon Agency, presenting more the geothermal potential and also the district heating view. We'll have a first case study presentation from the city of Karlovac, and you will see how they plan the development at the district heating level, so at the city level. We have 2 case studies, and as you may know, first event in Croatia has been done more on heat pump and small scale, and this event is more on large scale. So the 2 presentations we'll have will be on CHP. The event is not only on geothermal, so we are looking at different technologies, and Marco Baresi from Turboden will present biomass project in Croatia. Al contrario, Ewing will present a CHP plant in Draskovic with also some geothermal supply. Last but not least, I will just conclude this event to mention you recently open funding opportunities for renewable heating and cooling projects in Croatia, mainly with European funding program. So you can see from this overview but we have quite a dense agenda. Of course, we will have some opportunity for question and answer, but I don't want to lose more time in this introduction because it's to give the floor to Javier Ochoyega for introductory remarks. Javier, the floor is yours.
Hello to everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to salutate to me or you for or in behalf of the Renewable Heating and Cooling platform in our Renewable Heating and Cooling platform that stands for heating and cooling from renewable heating sources. When we think mostly about renewable energy, we don't sometimes are so aware that heating and cooling represents basically almost 50% of the energy consumption. So there's a huge field before of us to decarbonize heating and cooling sectors. Our platform was born more than 10 years ago from the joining together of different technologies dealing with renewable heating and cooling, such as geothermal, solar. Heat pumps are also regarded as a heating and cooling technology or renewable technology. We also have biomass and those sectors which are directly related to the heating and cooling from renewable energy sources. For us, it was a challenge to learn from each of our technologies how we can exploit our synergies to offer a faster path to decarbonization in this situation in Europe. But as you know, nowadays, this question is especially stringent and urgent to be solved due to the carbon crisis linked with the Russian situation and invasion. So I think our role as renewable heating and cooling platform is especially important in these days. And meetings like today are an opportunity for us and for you to learn from each other and to see how our technologies can contribute to solve these enormous problems in the shortest possible time. The role of a platform, of an ETIP platform, such as it is known, that means European Technology and Innovation Platform, is first of all to point on those technology improvements or innovations that are necessary to accelerate the deployment of certain technologies in the market. This is especially important for our technologies because most times the deployment of our technologies are linked to questions like the price or the costs at which these technologies can be deployed to the market. This is, for instance, a very important issue in geothermal. As you know, in geothermal, for instance, we have the drilling costs as a major concern when you decide to switch to geothermal technology, and the technology developments or the technology improvements are aimed basically also at reducing the type of cost and accelerating the deployment of our technologies into society. The same can be said in reference to heat pumps, solar, or any other technology dealing with renewable heating and cooling. So the platforms are an important point of information between scientists, between companies, within technologies, to decide to point at which technologies can be or should be accelerated or deployed in order to bring this benefit to the society. So our platform has been a major player in the last years to help identifying in combination with the Commission let's say the opportunities for technology innovation in order to accelerate deployment of RHC technologies in our society. So for me, it's a big pleasure to be here today and to hear about these innovations, specifically in the context of Croatia. Croatia, as was mentioned by Philippe Dumas, Croatia is a very important actor in the nowadays situation. So it will be challenging and it will be really thrilling to hear about what are really the needs and what are the opportunities which RHC technology opens in your context. So thank you very much for your presence today, and I am open for any question. Please have a nice meeting, and thank you.
Thank you, Rave, for these introductory remarks. Indeed, now we will go directly flying to Croatia and giving the floor to Sanja Zivkovic. You have different head, of course, the one from the Energy Institute, but if you want to say some words about the newly created association, feel free. Sanja, the floor is yours.
I will now share a screen. Okay, you see the presentation?
Yes, I confirm.
Okay. I would like to greet everyone and thank you for joining this webinar. I'm Sanja Živković, and I come from Energy Institute Hrvoje Požar, where I'm a senior researcher. I'm also a member of steering board of the Croatian Geothermal Association, which I will present by the end of the presentation. I would like to take the opportunity to make a short presentation about the Institute Hrvoje Požar. It was founded in 1994 as a 100% state-owned non-profit scientific institution. The institute is fully project funded with about 200 projects a year on average. We have 83 employees earning an annual income of around 4 million euros a year. EHP is having international experience with worldwide projects, so that 2/3 of income is generated outside of Croatia with more than 150 international partner institutions. Main areas of activities of the Institute are strategic planning of the energy sector, development of electric power, gas, oil, and district heating systems, market and legislative framework analysis, energy efficiency, renewable energy sources, climate and environmental protection studies, energy balances and statistics, education and promotional activities. For all the studies, energy balance and energy statistics are the base. So one of the most important activities of the Energy Institute Hrvoje Požar is the preparation of the annual energy report of Croatia, which is one of the most detailed and oldest state energy statistics report in Europe. It was initiated in 1945 and comprises reliable data from official data sources and is annually prepared by the Institute and published by the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development. This is the basic document for different energy statistics, planning and analysis activities on the state, local and company level. It can be found on the Energy Institute's and the Ministry's website. Croatia is a southeastern European country with less than 4 million inhabitants, according to the last population census survey conducted in 2020. The growth rate of the real gross domestic product in 2020 was -8%. The decline in total economic activity in 2020 due to COVID-19 pandemic was chiefly caused by the decrease in exports of services and personal consumption. Government consumption was the only component of domestic demand with a positive contribution to the GDP change in that year. And now to energy sector highlights. Croatia has got a high potential of renewable energy sources for both electricity generation and heat production. Croatia produces oil and gas, but unlike most of its Western Balkans neighbors, it no longer has its own coal reserves. In 2020, the country achieved an energy self-supply of 50.7% of its total primary energy supply. Croatia still has plenty of potential for energy efficiency improvements, especially in the residential sector. Total primary energy supply in 2020 was 386 petajoules. As compared to 2019, the total primary energy supply decreased by 4.5%. In the period from 2015, the total primary energy supply decreased at an average annual rate of 0.6%. From 1992, when Croatia's total primary energy supply was as its minimum, it grew at an average annual rate of 0.5%. In the structure of primary energy production, the largest share is occupied by wood and biomass with almost 33%, followed by hydropower with 26.4%, natural gas with 15%, oil with 13%, and wind energy with 7.8%. Other forms of energy account to less than 5% of total production. Overall primary energy production in 2020 decreased by 2.3% compared to the previous year. The highlight is that local production of crude oil and natural gas is decreasing, and local production of biomass and other renewable energy sources is increasing. The oil sector infrastructure in Croatia is characterized by 38 oil fields and 10 gas condensate fields. There are 3 refineries in Croatia, of which Rijeka and Zagreb are active, while the Sisak refinery is under reconstruction. Oil is transported by Janaf pipeline, which has got a significant role in oil supply from the Adriatic Sea to refineries of Southeast and Central Europe, especially now within efforts of reducing dependency on Russian oil. Croatia has got large storage capacities for oil and oil products and holds compulsory stocks of oil and oil products in the amount of 93 days of average daily net imports. As already mentioned before, crude oil production and refining is decreasing in Croatia, while the import of petroleum product is increasing. The overall consumption of petroleum products is decreasing. Production of natural gas is carried out from 17 gas fields in the Pannonian area and 3 gas exploration areas in the Adriatic Sea. Even though the gas production is decreasing, domestic production still covers about 30% of domestic demand. The Croatian gas transport system is operated by the state-owned Plinacro company with a total length of over 2,500 kilometers. It is connected via Slovenia and Hungary to the European transport network. The underground gas storage Okoli is located in the central Croatia and has maximal projected working volume of 553 million cubic meters. The LNG terminal on island of Krk became operational in 2021. During this year, more than 50% of natural gas was imported through LNG terminal, which is of strategic importance for the security and diversification of natural gas supply in the Central and Southeastern Europe. Regarding electricity production, installed power generation capacity exceeds domestic demand, and net import makes about 25% of total consumption. Croatian power operator holds ownership of 50% of the Krško nuclear power plant in Slovenia, which also contributes to Croatia's electricity supply, but is counted under imports in the energy statistics. Most of Croatia's electricity generation capacity is owned by the Croatian power operator, the state-owned electricity group, even though with an increasing number of privately owned renewable facilities, primarily wind farms. In 2020, more than 60% of Croatia's total electricity production came from renewable energy sources, 43% from hydropower, almost 13% from wind, 5.5% from biomass, and from solar and geothermal, 0.7% each. There is a huge interest in development of new renewable energy sources capacities, and in line with EU state aid rules, Croatia has recently switched to auctioning and feed-in premiums rather than feed-in tariffs. In Croatia, final energy consumption is in stagnation phase for the last 15 years. In the distribution of final energy consumption, households are the largest sector with more than 35%, then transport with 31%, and industry, services, agriculture, and construction making together remaining 33%. After discovery and development of Velika Ciglana site, first Croatian geothermal power plant was commissioned at the end of 2018. The installed capacity is 16.5 megawatts, but deliverance is limited to the capacity of the local power grid of 10 megawatts. In 2020, geothermal power accounted for 0.7% of electricity production. Aside from power generation, there is a capacity for direct use of geothermal resources, and it amounts to 147.4 megawatts, of which 42 is for district heating, 24 for balneology, and 12% for individual space heating, and 6.5% for agriculture. In 2021, from Velika Ciglena power plant, 74.65 gigawatt hours of electricity was produced, and in 16 active spas, district heating in 3 locations, and in 2 several 8 hectares large hydrophone technology greenhouses, 70.3 gigawatt hours of thermal energy was produced. In September 2021, 2 calls for proposals were published by the Ministry of Regional Developments and EU funds that jointly with the Energy Institute Hrvoje Požar manages the Energy and Climate Change Program, co-financed by the European Economic Area Financial Mechanism, with a focus on heating and cooling from geothermal energy. And 10 best projects were selected for co-funding of the technical documentation for the development of geothermal projects, and 3 best projects were selected for co-funding of investments in infrastructure required to utilize geothermal energy. Under these calls, about 5.6 million euros will be granted. I would like to conclude with the announcement that the Croatian Geothermal Association was established in October 2021. For the president of the association was elected Dean of Faculty of Mining, Geology and Petroleum Engineering, Professor Vladislav Brkic, and the vice president, the Dean of the Faculty of Geotechnics, Professor Hrvoje Mejaški. The aim of the association is to encourage research, development, and use of geothermal resources of the Republic of Croatia by collecting, publishing, and exchanging scientific and technical information within the community of geothermal experts and the necessary communication with the public. And the website is under construction, but will soon be operational, I hope. Well, this will be all. Thank you all for listening. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Sanja, for this overview of the energy system in Croatia. Do you have any question to Sanja? You can ask the question by the chat, the Q&A, or if you raise your hand, we will give you the floor. Anyway, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, Sanja, so maybe the question will come later, okay?
Yes, okay.
So now I'm giving the floor. It's my pleasure to Martina Tuchel from the Hydrocarbon agency in Croatia. And as you have seen already from Sanja, several projects are under development, and Martina will develop a bit what are these projects under development. Martina, the floor is yours.
Sorry, can you allow me to share my screen?
Yes, Sanja has to stop sharing her screen. And we will make you.
I'm trying, but I don't know.
Okay,
I have problems.
We will manage for you.
Please. Stop share, okay.
Okay.
So now, Martina, now you can share your screen.
Yes, in a second. I'm sorry.
No problem. It's a webinar.
So we have. Do you see it?
We can see it, not yet in full screen mode, but we can see it.
Okay.
Nearly okay. Now you have to click on display settings on the top.
Sorry?
Click on display settings on the top. On the left.
On my left?
Yeah, display settings, yes.
Okay.
And you swap. Swap.
Swap.
Click on swap. Yeah, it's perfect. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So, hello everybody. I would like to present Croatian Hydrocarbon Agency and basically our project under the National RRF Fund that we started at the end of the last year. So basically a little bit about Croatian Hydrocarbon Agency and how we ended up in geothermal. Croatian Hydrocarbon Agency was formed by the Croatian government and basically is a data repository for all the data collected during the exploration and production of oil and gas in Croatia, which started in the 1960s. So we have more than 4,000 wells drilled in Croatia for oil and gas and lots of still fields of oil and gas in production, but we have lots of wells outside the production areas that are available for the evaluation of geothermal potential. So basically, as we are all engineers, geologists in Croatian Hydrocarbon Agency, and we started this switch basically from oil and gas to renewables, and we started to evaluating the geothermal potential in abandoned oil and gas wells. We basically screen more than 200 wells that has some geothermal potential. I may say that we were very conservative during our evaluation, since we are looking that by DSTs that were performed on the wells, the water was flowing, and then this is some indication of the water together with the geology, and then connected with the temperature. So that's why we are basically evaluating Croatian geothermal potential for more than 1 gigawatt of the energy. I'm talking electricity, and heating is also a huge potential. So as we saw that basically geothermal LNG is not deployed in Croatia for the heating purposes as much as it could be, especially for the heating, for the buildings, and especially for agricultural purposes, because there is a lack of specific knowledge, and there is a lack of course, of financials. And we proposed to, during the planning of national RRF, that we will conduct a project that will evaluate geothermal potential for the heating purposes. So basically, the project was accepted, and we started our project, and we are now in the, let's say, start of the second phase. How we started our project? We first determined the big cities with the central heating systems, or with the potential of development of agricultural zones or business zones. And then we look at the data that we have, geology, so nearby wells, and the seismic data around these areas. We delineated 9 preliminary exploration blocks, did another additional study, and out of this, we choose 6 exploration blocks for the further exploration activities. Those are the blocks Zaprešić, Velika Gorica, and Sisak, let's say on this part of the west part of the Croatia, and on the eastern part, Osijek, Vinkovci, and Vukovar. And whole project is 100% financed by the RRF, because by the law we are Croatian Hydrocarbon Agency can conduct preliminary exploration works for the name of the Croatian government. So we can do this work, but we cannot continue with further production activities. That's why we are 100% financed, and we think that this will boost up some further investors after we finished our project, to have the basically very clear picture what will happen. So how our project will be conducted? I already said something of these things, but after the first evaluation of all the blocks, we are now preparing shooting a 2D seismic and magnetotelluric on 6 exploration blocks. So basically, they are all somehow covered with 2D or not 3D is not, and neither of the space exploration blocks are covered with 3D. And these 2D data are basically vintage data, and we are going to reshoot it and to maybe to a little bit make it more applicable for the interpretation of the reservoirs. After that, geological study of each area will be done, and 2 exploration blocks will be chosen for the drilling of 1 well at each exploration block. So basically, we are going to do all the exploration blocks, and after that, these blocks will be offered to the public tendering for the investors to further develop it with production well. But as you can we all know that by drilling 1 well and shooting new seismic in doing the studies, we can say that geological risk is almost totally diminished. I will say a little bit about each of the projects that we choose for a further development. One of these biggest blocks is Velika Gorica. Velika Gorica is a city near the Zagreb with a central heating network. And it is on this eastern part, there is a existing 3D seismic acquisition, but we are going to de-shoot it near the city itself, because we are trying to locate a well and the reservoir as closest to the city as possible. The evaluation was done preliminary on the nearby wells, Lomnica, Odra, and Kopčevec. It is reservoir in lithotamnium limestones with temperatures at the bottom of the wells 96, 104 degrees Celsius. As I mentioned before, city of Velika Gorica have a central heating network, and we are hoping that is now using the fossil fuels, and now we are hoping that they can totally switch to geothermal after the conducting of all operations. Zaprešić area is also the area near city of Zagreb, and this is the area with the, as you can see, the smallest portion of the data and without any well on the area. But we choose this because we did evaluation based on the Nedelja 1 well, which is located, let's say, a few kilometers away, and it has a good potential of developing the same deposits in the Zaprešić area in the carbonates and neogenic basement. So this is the most, I can say, the riskiest exploration blocks we are entering without the data, without the seismic, but this area has lots of potential.
Martina, you are muted. Okay, you're back.
Okay. So, but this is a great industrial potential with lots of consumers on the side of industry and business. So we are hoping that we can develop this area for use in this direction. Another place is Sisak. It is also near the town of Sisak. Evaluation is done on 2 wells. That reservoir is placed in lower to middle Miocene, lithotamnium limestones. The temperatures are not so optimistic, 46 degrees and 41 degrees. but we hope that we will find a good flow so the energy could be produced and as we are also discussing here, to deploy more technology to get as much as energy from this area as possible. Sisak is a city with a central heating system, with a huge one with installed capacity of 111 megawatts. So every help from renewable source will be good in order to change this central heating system to renewable sources. Osijek preliminary geothermal exploration block is also located near the big city of Osijek. We have 5 wells on which we did our estimation. Basically 3 near the city, because also we are trying to go south from the city to be as much as possible to the existing central heating system. So that's why we are also shooting seismic on this southern part with a lack of data. Reservoir is polymicrotic breccias conglomerates with also not so great temperature. Pomoć in one well, as you can see, it's 88 degrees Celsius, but it's too far away. We have to connect. We have to prove the connection with this area of Osijek 2 and Osijek 2 alpha wells, which do not have such promising temperatures, but we are hoping to find the same development of the reservoir so we can count on the higher temperatures. Also, Osijek is a city with central heating system with installed capacity of 358 megawatt. And it is also using now the fossil fuels, so help from geothermal would be good. Osijek is also near, is in Slavonia, which is Croatian biggest agricultural part. And development of greenhouse production is also in favor of using geothermal in this part of Croatia. Same situation is Vukovar. We are basically aiming to the agricultural production since the central heating system is located in the northern part of the city with not promising data, and we are aiming to the south part of the city where we are estimated our reservoir in sandstones with temperature at the depth of the well 76 to 78 degrees Celsius. Since this is also agricultural area, development of geothermal would be possible in a way of using it for the greenhouse production and business zones nearby. Vinkovci area is also located near Vukovar. We are planning to let's say, taken up a little bit of this seismic network and to connect basically 2 wells that are existing on the Vinkovci exploration block, so we can confirm our reservoir. Reservoir is polymicrotic breccias with the temperatures at these 2 wells at the bottom 166 degrees Celsius and the other is 110. So maybe it is the highest potential in this, but also it needs to be proved by the further studies, shooting seismic, and maybe drilling of the new wells. Also, Vinkovci city has a small central heating system, only 18 megawatts, but a huge potential for spreading the geothermal usage on greenhouse production. So basically, this will be all of the projects. I can update you that we are now in the process of shooting the seismic. We are preparing everything to shoot the seismic. It's going to be 2D seismic because of the lack of financials, unfortunately. So we have to do some compromise on getting the data, not spending lots of money on that. And we are going to do the magnetotelluric measurements on all the spaces. The biggest acquisition will be around the town of Velika Gorica. It will be around 45 kilometers of 2D profiles that we will try to connect all the wells in the area and to determine the reservoir on each, which was indicated on the wells, but we want to be sure to see it on the seismic and then to decide on the further drilling. As we already mentioned, we see the potential in using the geothermal for the heating purposes, but we also saw that we are lacking of funds regarding the bigger investors, as drilling of these wells is very expensive. And then we are talking about consumer side that should be in line with the expenses spent on the drilling and the old infrastructure for the usage of geothermal energy. That's why we find this, let's say, niche to boost up a little bit of heating projects in Croatia and to increase the usage of geothermal for the heating purposes. We are also seeing the big potential in using it in agriculture, but also lacking of specific knowledge of a reservoir. And as I may say, maybe a little bit of out of the not having the knowledge about the reservoir, the fear of using of geothermal for agricultural. So we are really low on deployment geothermal in that way. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me or now ask some questions. I'm open. Thank you very much.
Yes, we have a question to you from Mr. Rob Tipples. It's quite a technical question, so maybe you will do a bilateral chat between you because it's better like that. I will now give the floor to present the planning of the city of Karlovac, because we have seen that now you have several projects under development. You are mentioning, Martina, agri-food industry, but for the city, what are the challenges? So I will give the floor first to Mr. Matija Racek from Geothermica, and then to Mr. Roger Kobluka from Toplana Karlovac. So Matija, the floor is yours.
Okay.
Thank you. Just a second. Okay. Hi all. My name is Matija Racek. I'm geologist from Geothermica.
So Matija, can you just put in full screen mode, please?
Oh, I think I am. Is it okay?
It will come. Okay, yeah, thank you. It will come.
Thank you. Geothermica is company in 100% owned by City of Karlovac, established in January 2018 for the research and exploitation of geothermal water for energy purpose, mainly for district heating, and if possible, for electricity, agriculture, city pool, and other use. Geothermal potential in the northeast area of the city of Karlovac is a confirmed geothermal reservoir. In the 80s, INA, Croatian oil and gas company, conducted research for oil and gas with few boreholes, and unfortunately or fortunately, they didn't find any oil or gas, but they found hot water. Borehole Karlovac 2 and Karlovac 3 found thick layers of carbonates at depths in between 3,000 and 1,800 meters. That carbonates are saturated with hot water. Temperature of that water is around 140 Celsius. INA wasn't interested in geothermal energy, and now 40 years later, we try to bring geothermal energy to the city of Karlovac. Our projects have two stages. In first stages, we plan to drill 2 new wells, production and injection, closer to the city. That wells will be around 2,500 meters depth and around 6 or 7 kilometers away from the city heating plant. Energy from that wells will be used mainly for district heating. In second stage, we want to drill 2 more wells. That wells will be much deeper, around 3 or 4 kilometers, and have a higher temperature. Plan is to produce electricity and possible cascade using energy before injection water back to the underground. This is the map of our research field for geothermal water. Name is Karlovac 1. In the southwest is city of Karlovac, and these red dots are our planned boreholes. KGT1 and KGT2 is first phase, KGT3 and KGT4 is second phase, and old INA wells are a few kilometers on the northeast and this.
Matthias, sorry, the presentation is not moving. The slides are not showing.
Now is okay?
No, it's only the first one.
Maybe the best, Mattia, it happens sometimes. You have to stop sharing and sharing again. And instead of sharing the screen, share just your presentation. It happens sometimes with Zoom.
Is now okay, or?
We can see your screen, not in full screen mode, but I think there's an issue indeed. No problem, you can continue with that.
Just a second. Okay.
Sorry, Matija, I think that the problem is that we cannot see the next slide. If you go to the next one. We are still in this, I think it's the second slide.
I don't know what's problem.
So if you want, I'm gonna share your screen, okay?
Okay.
And you can, yeah, give me a second.
So Mattia, the floor is yours, and you can continue presentation.
I think we stopped at slide number 6. Okay, these are my map of our research field with location of geothermal or planned geothermal well, KGT1, and borehole working space. Next slide, please. I think done so far. We initiated an application for the tender of exploration area. 5-year research plan was developed for geological prospecting and geothermal potential in the area. Obtained permits to explore geothermal potential, geological prospection of the area of Karlovac. In accordance with Hydrocarbon Exploration and Exploitation Act, experts of these fields are employed. Analysis and interpretation of data recorded to the seismic profiles and geological information and geological basic for KGT1. The most convenient location for fault wells are determined. Next slide, please. Concept design of exploration geothermal wells and borehole construction work area to accommodate the drilling unit, obtain approval from the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development, preliminary design borehole construction workplace, environmental study, project of construction and exploration geothermal well and construction of well working space, main project for the construction of well working space, and now we are waiting a local permit that we expect in the next 2 months. These are all steps from the tender from exploration area to beginning to exploitation of geothermal water. We are currently waiting for a location permit, and the next step is secure funding for drilling, first borehole KGT1, and of course, after drilling, we have a lot more work to do, but we think that these or other steps will came a lot faster and a lot easier than this first one. Next slide. We are also very proud of EU funding, which means that we are on the right track. Our project Geo4K was approved at European City Facility and back up with 60,000 euros. With that money, we made a preparation for feasibility study, project implementation plan, business plan, and investment concept. Our other project, prep for KGT1, is approved from European Economic Area and back up with 764,000 euros. Today, the director of Geothermica, Mr. Vlatko Kovacic, signing grant, and he was not able to participate in this event. Next slide, please. And these are financial requirements of the first stages. Technical documentation. It's funded by Geothermica and City of Karlovac with more than 300 euros. Constructions of well working space is around 500 euros. And these are financing that we are secured for drilling and for drilling two other wells, and for next studies that we have to do, we don't have secure financing. Next slide, please. Concluding observation, the realization of such a project requires the partnership with local and regional authority, government administration, and Ministry of Republic of Croatia to compliance of Croatian law, regulation, and other domestic special firms, institution, and experts. Next slide, please. That's all from me for now. If you have any questions, please ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matija. Maybe now it's time to have the complementary presentation for the city of Karlovac, and we give the floor to Mr. Josh Koblikar.
Good day also from my side. Let me start sharing. Is it okay to start?
It's okay, thank you. Floor is yours.
Okay. Matija explained very nicely how the geothermal project is important for our city, meaning also in first line for district heating. So it's a potential recognized many years ago, and of course it was at that time only in the planning phase. Now the colleagues from the Geothermica, they all are stepping with brave steps towards it. Although we, as Matthias said, the financial construction is not still set up, but I think because of the big potential of geothermal near the city of Karlovac, and from one hand, and possibility to use it in the developed district heating on the other, some way will be found. Okay, let me start. So in short about district heating in Karlovac, so we have quite a lot of years behind us, more than 50 years of tradition. In the meantime, the first company went bankrupt, and in 2012, the new company Gradska Toplana was founded. We have around 8,000 customers, primarily domestic. Out of that, about 300 customers are business ones. We heat around 500,000 of square meters of heated service, what represents around half of the urban part of the city. And our production facility consists of 2 active boilers powered with power of 87 megawatts from the central district heating, and we have smaller Smith and couple of buildings with 2 megawatts power, mostly driven with natural gas. Our pipeline has the power of more than 60 megawatts. It is 21 kilometer long. And we have 176 indirect type substations, plus 9 substations on this small closed system. Well, last year, we delivered around 55 gigawatt hours of energy. Our energy deliverance vary from, let's say, above around 50 up to 60, depending on how the year call is. Currently, we are 43 employees. This is the map of our pipeline. You see a nice star-shaped structure with 3 main branches, and this one branch is actually the expanding part of the city. This is the future heating zone, ex-military complex, and we also will expand to that area. What are the main challenges? First, in most important, we are the pure district heating, comparing to some other district heating companies in Croatia, which are doing building management and or gas business and something like that. So we are pretty under financial pressure because the district heating is a public service and highly regulated, so you cannot generate too much profit to invest. Our production has to be modernized. We did some investment last year where we replaced one important part of the boiler. What is ahead of us, we have to do some additional automation on the existing boiler, and we have to optimize certain things in order to be more efficient. As stated above, what we use mainly is this boiler 3, which has 58 megawatts, using primarily natural gas, but also heavy oil is possible to use, although we try to avoid it because of its influence on the boiler, negative influence on the boiler. And the small boiler with the power of 29 megawatts is using exclusively heavy oil. This is actually more a backup boiler. About the pipeline, this is definitely the most important part of the district heating system. It's around 50, it's in average around 30 years old. Some parts are from the beginning, meaning more than 50 years. We experience around 80 ruptures per year, so we have to stop the delivery of the heat to some part of town and repair it. Then we have problems with deliveries, meaning we have heat stops for at least couple of hours up to 1 day. We have, of course, pretty big media losses out of the problem with the pipes. Second to that, we have hydraulic unbalance. We have to pump it more than necessary because of this unbalance. And we will avoid it when we do this big project, which we are actually entered, we prevent the problem. And also our problem is our working regime. We heat during the day, and in summer we have a standstill. All of that is not good for the pipeline. These are the main reasons why the pipeline has so many problems currently. Our big problem is also the cost to buy CO2 units. Currently, due to our power of our facility, we are treated, we fall under the obligation to buy CO2 units. Many of you know that the price went extremely up in 2021, which brought us to the fiscal loss in the last year. So this is also our challenge and also our big motivation to go towards renewable sources. Also, it's worth to mention that the city of Karlovac started with energetic zoning, so meaning that the zones for district heating will be defined, as well as the zone for natural gas. So we will have some order in where to build certain network. Currently, the networks are interlaced, and of course, we have problems out of it. The legal framework is also something in Croatia in district heating pretty important. It's not bad, but it has quite a lot of improvement potential, and it is something which needs to be improved in order to have a clear business in terms of district heating. Our big project started around a year ago, and currently we are in the hot phase, is so-called E2 Integral Territorial Investment. The goals are first reliability. As mentioned, we have problem with the quality of service. We have to renew the network. We will improve also leaking detection system. Currently, we don't have some. Point 2 is, of course, energy efficiency. We have to reduce, and we will, with this project, reduce the losses from 15%, losses in distribution, from 15% to below 8%. And of course, we have to prepare our pipeline, our network, to introduce renewable sources. There are several potentials. I'll come to that. We will also achieve hydraulic balance. We will introduce efficient control of the DH network, and we will also introduce the necessary prerequisites to provide higher comfort to citizens, meaning we will be able to provide heating service for 24 hours. All of that should lead to higher quality of service and to happier customer. Just a short project overview about our new distribution. So we will renovate around 74.75% of our pipeline. We will dig out the old pipes and put the new ones in with better isolation, so it will also generate further quality. We will modernize thermal substations. So they are all of indirect type. We will modernize up to the heat exchanger, what is under the control of distributor. We will introduce SCADA system. We will be able to have all substations supervised and controlled from the central point. Also, we will modernize distribution facility. We have 6 pumps currently, 3 up to 4 are working concurrently, and we will modernize them with frequency control and some new possibilities. So these are the necessary integral part of such big projects: project supervision, project managing, and visibility. Total project value is 134 million kuna. Out of that, 128 million kuna are eligible costs. Out of that, we will get slightly above 80% from EU, under 3.6, and we also we will receive 10 million kuna from state also to reduce our own need for our own share of the project financing. So the future is definitely bright. First, the energy prices rise, so we are all motivated to go green. as mentioned, CO2 costs is something what we really have to reduce. Also, we are all aware that natural gas price exploded in the past year and a half, and this is also reason to get away from the natural gas as to the measure as it possible. Of course, there is a chance to grow the current network because of the customer demand, which we expect to grow due to all those circumstances above. All of that should be, of course, the only real possible ways to introduce renewable sources. The strategic renewable source is definitely geothermal. This is our main source. What we expect at least 10 megawatt of continuous power from geothermal. Also, there is a cogeneration heat plant on biomass near on the city edge. They are able to provide 8.5 megawatt of power also in continuous work. We are in the negotiation with them to how to do it. There are also some possibilities which in the past were treated as totally unfeasible, too expensive and something like that. Now, due to the high natural gas price, the picture is changing. So the Karlovac owns central sewage system. Some estimations foresee around 7 to 8 megawatt with heat pump of heat to be recovered out of the sewage waters. We have also 4 rivers. Some of them are relatively close to the district heating system. By using the heat pumps, there is definitely a possibility to extract some energy out of there, but this is still in the very early phase, both of those possibilities. So our main challenges are timed. We have to survive. We have to live up to those bright points, and the CO2 cost, which we have to manage in the meantime. Why is this important? Because apart from Zagreb, Osijek, and Sisak, only Karlovac has the burden of CO2 cost. All other district heating operators in Croatia currently do not have this problem. So we are put in, let's say, from the market perspective, worse position. What is also important is also from the facility side, we have to introduce heat storage tanks. We have currently 2 times 1,000 cubic meters here heavy oil tanks, which we do not need anymore. So one tank has an estimated storage capacity of 70 megawatt hours. We have 2. We'll see how much, whether we will retrofit both of them or only one of them. Also, we have one small project, not photovoltaic, but photovoltaic thermal, estimated around 100 kilowatt of electricity and around 300 kilowatt of thermal power. Also, we are Karlovac. We do not provide domestic hot water. So near our facility, there are a couple of buildings, residential buildings. So we would like to introduce through pilot project domestic hot water just to promote it and to use also this heat which will be generated over the summer where our plant is standing still. Also, we would like to take part in the integration of solar energy. Some buildings will definitely at a certain point introduce solar panels on their roofs or facade, and we would like to take part in those projects, integrate them in our existing district heating substations. Of course, all of that should bring new customers, and by growing the number of customers, should introduce also the lower fixed price of our service. As already said, geothermal is one, let's say, in our terms of Karlovac, one-time opportunity, because together, so those 10 megawatts together with biomass from 8.5 megawatt, we would be probably 100% renewable source driven DH system. So this is, let's say, opportunity which we don't see in any other city in Croatia, and we could also brand our city, which is already green, green also in that relation. Our customer will have, of course, several advantages. First, and probably the most important, is the energy independence. We should not then be energy dependent on global movings of, like now, natural gas prices or any kind of energy source. Also, the prices should be stable and not fluctuating. And of course, on the end of the day, we will enjoy even more clean air, high comfort of the surface. We will preserve this current boiler facility. By that, we will have redundancy, and the customers will have safety in terms of getting their heat. The challenges are usual. Matija also mentioned some of the details. The temperature of the water extracted. We hope it will be actually higher than already foreseen. The stability of sourcing of geothermal over years, so we expect to have it for long years. The connecting pipeline has to be built. 7 kilometers means around 7 million euro according to current prices. Many of you know that the steel price went up. Also, the isolation materials price also went up, so it's quite a lot of money to connect geothermal source near the city with our facility. Of course, the time and the CO2 cost also bonded with that. We will also, on the long run, we should we should explore the possibility not to stand still in summer. There are some document studies how to explore it, the geothermal, how to explore the pipeline for cooling, and we will work on that direction. Of course, financing is something we are definitely very dependent, so we expect to get the money over grants because of the public character of this service, which should not be expensive, and also with EU project, we have to find the money for our own share of the project. So this is in short. So if you have some questions, please do ask.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kucha. Indeed, there are some questions, but as time is running, I suggest we do the questions in writing format. You can see in the chat. And now we go to the presentation of a project already in operation in Croatia. And first, I will give the floor to Marco Baresi to present a combined heat and power project with biomass. Marco, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Philippe. It's interesting to know and to be here to understand how Croatia is going ahead in renewable and so on. And I'd like to share some experience of Turboden of today. Sorry. Okay, can you see my screen?
I confirm. Perfect.
Yes, okay. Yes, before going deeply, I'm currently the vice president of EGEC, so I'm deeply involved in geothermal, but I'm here to discuss about the experience of Turboden, to share the experience of Turboden in biomass projects in Croatia. Only few words, a brief explanation, a very brief explanation of Turboden that could be helpful, in my opinion, to discuss for the discussion today about how to improve renewable and energy efficiency in Croatia. Turboden is an Italian firm specialized in design, manufacture, and maintenance of organic ranking cycle system, the so-called ORC system. Suitable for distributed generation to produce electricity and thermal power, exploiting multiple sources with different heat sources. We have also expanded our portfolio of energy efficiency solutions with the gas expander for the gas distribution system and large heat pump for example, for district heating network or for industrial applications. This is a portfolio of plants in operation in Turboden. On the left side, you can see the biomass is the large part in terms of numbers. We have more than 300 plants in operation in biomass, currently in 50 countries around the world. But also we are able to exploit geothermal, so low temperature heat sources, but also waste heat from industrial processes like steel, cement, glass, or refinery, for example. And so the oil and gas waste heat recovery systems. We have also a portfolio of application in high temperature and, as I mentioned before, large heat pump and gas expander. Last, we have 25 units in distributed waste to energy plants, mainly the valorization of waste to energy in small size, so less than 10 megawatt electrical, to give you an idea. But what is a turbo generator? This is a simplified scheme. You can see on the left side the heat source. The heat from the external source evaporate a working fluid that the main difference between ORC and the steam, traditional steam turbines is the working fluid, one of the main difference. In traditional steam turbines, we have water steam. In the ORC, you have organic fluids that are siloxane or hydrocarbons or refrigerant, for example, for geothermal. And thanks to this evaporation and condensation in turbines, we couple the alternator to produce electric power for the grid or for self-consumption, for example, in industrial applications. The heat is useful heat. It could be connected to district heating for drying or for refrigeration with cooling, for example. I'm here, as I told you, for a biomass plant today, and this is an example of biomass plant with ORC system. On the left side, you see the biomass stock. In the central part, there is a combustion system. Traditionally, is a combustion system, but we have also developed some project with gasification and pyrolysis that could be also a new step for the innovation and to combine ORC with these technologies. And the ORC, the heat exchanger that transmit the thermal power to the diathermic oil. And the diathermic oil allows the ORC system to generate power for the grid and heat for the thermal user in a closed loop. The applications of biomass. There is a list of projects we have already developed in biomass, starting from sawmill residues, bark, wood dust, or chips, pellet, or so on. Basically, we have a very good connection with the boiler manufacturer, and starting from different kind of biomass, we are able to valorize this biomass, these residues of these byproducts to generate power and heat. Heat that could be from lower temperature, 50 degrees, to 200 degrees. 50 degrees means, for example, greenhouse, fish farming, or district heating, and growing the temperature, we are arriving very close to the industrial application, industrial processes, like, for example, vegetable or refining, dairy, pulp and paper, and so on. So, as you can see, there is a huge variety of biomass and different application of this ORC cogenerative system to generate green power and green heat. The key points of the ORC system, mainly the simplicity. All the projects are remote monitoring, and there is a high level of automatic operation. Another big issue is no water use compared to, for example, the steam turbines, organic, the DORC, there is no use of water in the DORC system, and is particularly useful in some areas when there is a shortage of water, for example. Minimal maintenance activities. Also, the system is very flexible. Let me underline the excellent part load capability down to 10% load. It means that it is able to follow the variability of the, for example, district heating or industrial processes coming from the nominal power to the 10% of nominal power with loss of efficiency, of course, but minimum loss of efficiency. Dependability, height availability, long life, and also, of course, is sustainability, because we are talking about a technology for clean generation of power and for exploiting renewable energy and energy efficiency. These plants, Croatia is an interesting market for us, very interesting. We have the first project is started years ago in biomass, and this is a complete list of biomass, and also the last one is the geothermal already mentioned project. In biomass, we have realized all CHP plant, combined heat and power plant. I realized that there is no one connected to district heating yet, compared to other countries. Currently, we have more than 150 plants, biomass plants connected to district heating. But in this specific case of Croatia, we focused on industrial application, mainly pellet, so generate electricity, green electricity and heat for the production of pellet, but also sawmills, wood drying, wood industry, and so on. The typical size are typical size of small size ORC plant integrated with in the plant. We are talking about, we can see here 300 kilowatt to 1.8 megawatt, and electrical power, and the thermal power is in the range of 1 megawatt thermal to 7 megawatt thermal. We have also realized biomass plants in 10 megawatt biomass plants in the area of the world, for example, in Canada or in Turkey or so on. So we are able to develop a wide range of biomass plants. This plant is one of the latest, most probably the latest one, started in 2021, 1.3 megawatt biomass plant for the production of pellet, for the production of green electricity, and pellet for the process. Let me close my intervention with some data from Bioenergy Europe. Bioenergy Europe is the association of biofuels in Europe. This is a potential for the contribution of bioelectricity compared to all the renewable electricity in 2030. According to the data examined by the National Energy, Renewable Energy and Climate Plan in 2018. And it's interesting to see that the contribution of bioelectricity in Croatia to the overall renewable electricity could be of interest. I've seen before the interesting presentation from the agency from Sanja Zikovic, and I've seen that currently the primary energy is 33% by biomass, so is of course an interesting share. Looking at the bioelectricity in 2030 compared to 2018, sorry, there is a good opportunity for develop this kind of source. Last slide from my side. We are proud to be part of the geothermal development in Croatia. We started the Velika Ciglena plants in 2018, and as you mentioned, it was one of the largest ORC turbines in the world. 17.5 megawatt that currently are operating at 10 megawatt due to some grid constraints. But we will be proud also to contribute for the geothermal development in Croatia. I've seen that national plan accounted for 300 megawatt as potential, and could be also an opportunity for developing this kind of source for electricity or for electricity and heat production. We are also involved in some other projects in geothermal, so it is the right period. Also accounting that last week with the Repower EU, in my opinion, will be a boost for the transition to the green electricity and green electricity heating and cooling in the next future, in order to reduce the dependency of gas. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I give the floor to Philippe for the remaining part of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco, for this presentation. Indeed, it's important to see real projects in operation and case studies to illustrate that indeed this transition is possible and feasible. Now we will have a second presentation of a project. It's my pleasure to give the floor to Lorenz for presenting its project. Lorenz, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Philippe, and good morning to everybody, and hello to all the familiar faces here. Can you see? Is it in full screen?
It's coming. Is it in full screen?
Great. So yeah, I've been asked to share our experiences as a project developer in Croatia, which we of course gladly do. My name is Lawrence Ewing. I work for the company Closed Loop Energy AG. We've been developing a geothermal heat and power project in Croatia for the last 10 years now, and I'll give you a very brief overview of what we've done, and yeah, I'll keep it very short with respect to the remaining time today. I'll give a quick introduction, shortly talk about the technology, geothermal for heating and cooling, and the relevance. So our project company is called AAT Geotherme DOO, established in 2012. We're developing an innovative geothermal heat and power project. To my knowledge, it's the first geothermal heat and power project of Croatia. We have obtained EU funding. We've also been announced a strategic project to Croatia, and we're situated in northern Croatia, very close to a town called Prelog, as you can see here on the map. A quick overview of what happened in the last 10 years. So basically, we started off in 2012, acquired an existing well that we refurbished and tested. A few years later, we obtained a NER 300 award, and over the time there was a Renewable Energy Act in force. A new government assumed office, and in 2018 we were pronounced a project of strategic importance. By 2018 we had drilled a new well, which we used for further testing and also proving the geothermal resource. In the same year there was a new Renewable Act in force, and 2 years later, the bylaws were implemented. By 2020, the project, well, since 2020, the project is fully financed, and in 2021, we've obtained another round of EU funds, this time within the Small Scale Innovation Fund program. 2022 is so far a great year because we've DG Comp has approved the renewable energy program of Croatia, which led to the launch of the call for tenders, as mentioned earlier today as well. So this was this was really fantastic. We've been waiting for a long time, and we're really happy that it happened now. And basically now the project is ready to commence. So we've recently launched the EPC tender, and if everything goes as planned, we envisage to start the construction at the end of this year or early next year. Giving you a brief overview about the stakeholders, we basically, you can separate it into 4, which would be the private actors, which are the developers, the suppliers, the construction companies, and the promoter. The national actors, which are basically responsible for the permits, for the monitoring, and for the premium offtake agreements. The local actors, which would be in most cases the city utility, and smaller private actors consisting of industry greenhouses or recreational heat users, and debt providers. Quickly, what we're doing and what's different about our project approach. What you see here is a relatively normal geothermal power plant. From the production wells, you have hot brine, which is converted to electricity in the ORC turbine. The remaining heat can be used for the district heating grid or other thermal users, and the cold brine is then re-injected. And what you see here is our USP essentially, because in a lot of geothermal waters, especially low temperature waters, what I mean with that is around 100 degrees Celsius, there are dissolved gases in these waters, and you need to find a solution how to handle these without emitting any greenhouse gases into the environment. And therefore we came up with this technology where we're burning the gas in gas engines that generate more electricity. The flue gas is captured with an amine scrubber, and the CO2 is then compressed and again dissolved with the cold geothermal brine, resulting in a very high electrical efficiency of the plant while having no GHG emissions, and at the same time unlocking a huge heat potential. The specifications of the project is roughly summed up. The technology we refer to as internalization of carbon compounds. We can work efficiently at a wellhead temperature of around 100 degrees Celsius, which is considered relatively low for heat and power production. The gross capacity is 100 megawatt. Roughly 20% out of this is electricity and 80% is heat. So essentially we're a large thermal plant. The net production is 90,000 megawatt hours electricity and roughly 500,000 megawatts of thermal heat. We intended to minimize the technological risk by insisting on using off-the-shelf components. For instance, the ORC turbine is from Torboden, the previous presentation. And by using this approach, we end up having an extremely low CO2 life cycle footprint of roughly 5 grams per kilowatt hour. Another advantage of being able to work with 100 degrees efficiently is that we can basically use existing data and during the exploration phase, and thereby we can minimize the development risk of the project. So why is geothermal suitable for heating and cooling? In our lives, we are dependent on affordable, always on and sustainable energy. And I think what many people are not aware is that 99% of the Earth is hotter than 1,000 degrees, and that we're essentially sitting on a lot of energy that is still today hugely untapped. Renewable energy presents a true renewable baseload heat and power source. And due to the baseload component, the prices are stable. And as we see in today's political climate, stable prices are extremely important. It can be decentralized and therefore also offers off-grid energy solutions. Using the heat via direct use minimizes the conversion losses compared to using electricity for heating and cooling. And as mentioned, there are no geopolitics involved and there is no waste. There are several applications, as already mentioned today. In our case, we're focusing on everything below 100 degrees. And yeah, I think they were mentioned today, so I will, for the sake of time, keep it short. Here's an outtake of a feasibility study for the planned district heating grid of Prelog. In the upper right corner, you see our project location. And if you look to the left, if you follow my mouse, there's a new byway road planned. And this is ideal because we can use this to connect Prelog, which you see on the left, to the planned district heating grid. So we envisage that there will be phases in the development, starting with aquaculture, hydroponics, and recreational purposes near the project site, followed by connecting the industry zones of the town of Prelog, which you see in the north and in the east, and also connecting the public via 2 phases of the general district heating grid of the towns. Yeah, that's how we envisage the development. And this is not it's not unusual for Croatia, because Croatia actually has an above average geothermal gradient compared to the European average. And as mentioned before, there are a lot of blocks that are identified as promising geothermal areas. So this can be replicated throughout the country. Connecting Croatia and Europe, Croatia is not, this is not a single case. Actually, throughout Europe, there are sedimentary basins that either have oil and gas history or are have a water phase that are suitable for these kinds of heat and power projects. So I think today we've established that geothermal in Croatia is able to support stable prices and energy security, but you might ask yourself, where are all the projects? And there are quite a lot of barriers to overcome. As I mentioned throughout the presentation today, we've spent a lot of time, and we're very happy that we've come so far. But you need to bring a lot of patience, and therefore it is timely. It can be uncertain to be on the project developer side, and it's definitely costly. And for the integration of heat, I believe there just has to be more use cases, because there's an overall lack of familiarity. So if you basically go to a bank or you go to cities or wherever, there's no family. No one really knows what you're talking about because it hasn't really been done before. So what we essentially need is pilot projects that show the viability, that show the benefits of using heat, and this will ultimately enable the replication. And given an older agenda that I saw, the Hydrocarbon Agency would have been after me, so this would have been my nice transition, but that has changed. So I can maybe finalize. The Hydrocarbon Agency has done a lot to support geothermal in the previous years, and that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. Indeed, it was interesting to see the development and all the time you spent, but no, with good results for your project development. Now,
thank you.
It's time to go to the last presentation. I will just present you briefly an overview of some open funding opportunities for projects in Croatia. What you could see, it will be mainly from projects funded by European projects. Hope you can see my screen. But in full screen mode, and you should be able to see it. So what I want to start with is some Horizon Europe project, maybe, because indeed in the RSC platform, this event is organized on behalf of the RSC platform, but Javier introduced you. We are also working on looking how the research priorities set for developing new technologies, new innovation in renewable heat and cooling, being for biomass, solar thermal, geothermal, heat pump, district heating, or combined and power, could be implemented with some funding programs. So the opportunities you see as topics are also coming from the research agenda we set. So it's important for all the stakeholders also to be involved in the definition of a research agenda and the roadmap that after are implemented. So here you could see, will be quite brief because you will after have a slide to see the details of a codes, but you could see here first some codes at building level, so demand response in energy efficient residential buildings, some codes on energy positive homes, of course with renewable. You can see quite some of them are for demonstration project. Smart buildings for better energy performance. And in top of that, you have also opened in Horizon Europe program for the codes 2022, some also large scale renewable heating and cooling topics, notably one on heat upgrade technologies with supply temperature in range 150 to 250 degrees. You could see the temperature range mentioned during the different presentation of case studies today. Another interesting call you have is high temperature thermal storage for industrial application. So I think it was Martina Osania mentioning the opportunity also in Croatia in agri-food industry, but maybe in other industry also. to see how we can have a fuel switch to renewable. But of course, here it's important to have also thermal storage and high temperature thermal storage. In terms of the two series of codes on buildings and large scale, so we have also some codes on batteries, which is not directly linked with RSE technologies, but can have also some interesting interface, notably with combined and power. And you can see there's plenty of codes on batteries. For all the projects, all the codes mentioned here, if they are open, it's a single stage, and the deadline is just after the summer, is on 6th of September. So you need to already, if you're interested, form your consortium and develop your ideas. As geothermal, we plan, and you will receive soon the information, brokerage event on the 28th of June in the morning. You will receive further information. Notably, we will use Zoom and parallel rooms to help you maybe looking for new partners for your consortium. But have in mind the deadline 6th of September. Another opportunity of course is live. Of course, you have a traditional live project in our environment, but also they opened from last year the clean energy also transition sub-program. Here we speak about not big budget, it's mainly for socioeconomic studies. The code has been opened last week, the deadline is 16th of November. And you can see it's nearly 18 topics. I just highlight in yellow the ones relevant for the discussion today, which is more on large scale. So you can see technical support to clean energy transition plans and strategy at municipal level or at regional level. Another one is developing support mechanism for energy communities. And few other ones I highlight, but of course all of them can be relevant for your project, is addressing building-related interventions in vulnerable districts, or at district level again, accelerating deployment of heat pump through collective purchase actions and procurement. Also, here there can be also large-scale heat pumps, so to be seen. And last but not least, integration of low-grade renewable energy or waste heat in high-temperature district heating. So you can see also from this live program a series of opportunities for developing projects. And last but not least, I want to present you the Innovation Fund. Lawrence mentioned it already because they have also received some co-funding for their project from this Innovation Fund. You could, maybe you know that the reform is to have two kinds of codes, large scale and small scale. The two codes on large scale are open, and on a small scale, one has been already done. And we have seen that the award to the closed carbon geothermal energy project in Croatia has been done. But you have also now a new open call with open just end of March, with a deadline end of August. And here also we will organize, we have not set the date, but in June, EJEC will organize a workshop on the Innovation Fund and these codes in collaboration with DG Climate. We will announce the date as soon as possible. And to conclude, the last opportunity, because it was also mentioned today by the city of Karlovac, is the possibility to have also some funding from the EU grants, also from Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway grants. And it was the example given by the PrEP for KGT1, which, as I understand, is signed today. So congratulations to the city of Karlovac for this signature. With that, I'm ending my presentation. I hope you have enjoyed the webinar. It was a bit longer than we expected, but it means that it was a lot of good input, good presentation, and also hope we have been able to answer the question. There were quite some questions. If we are not able to answer them, no, we will do a follow-up email. Feel free also to come back to us if you have any questions, any further inputs. It was really interesting for us to go to Croatia to develop that. As I understand, some events also planned, physical events also planned in Croatia in the second semester. So we will be happy also to meet you and to network with you. And maybe just to conclude, so as I mentioned before, Javier was there. also we represent the ETIP. It's important for stakeholders to be involved in such platforms because it's all together that we will make all this development possible. We will fight energy price crisis, security of supply by doing projects all together. Thank you all presenters, all attendants. It was well attended, this event, and I wish you a nice day. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.